Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host G1. As always, I hope you're having a good week. It has been a really busy one for me, with a lot of change taking place in my workplace. I got a new VP of my department, and as you can imagine, that means more work for everyone. As we all have to get him up to speed and into the flow of things, kind of educated about what we do and how we do things. So it's a lot of reporting and a lot of meetings and discussions and things like that, projects that we have going on. You guys get it. It's pretty time consuming. But those things happen. That's not the first time, probably won't be the last time in my career that I've had to do this. So I'm writing this show and putting this show together while the dementia patient in chief is up in front of Congress delivering his speech, and that's what the show is about today. That's what it's called. I'm figuring that they have him pretty highly medicated, which is still not enough to get him speaking at a coherent pace. He's mumbling, continues to run his words together as he reads the speech. It's shameful and sad, and our ancestors are embarrassed for us. And it's elderly abuse, really. It's not just this political circus that they're running there. It's a criminal act. If some meemaw in Iowa was being treated like Biden, as her kids, stole everything she had and let some fly-by-night contractor come in and install a roof on her house or something like that. Those kids will be arrested. More, rules for thee and not for me. They get to get away with this kind of thing. I'm not going to bother trying to do any kind of point-by-point take on this speech because it's all garbage. You guys know that. It's a big steaming pile of fertilizer that they want you to believe. And the sad state of this thing is that there are a lot of NPCs out there that will believe this. They will eat this up in heaping spoonfuls, partially because they just believe everything the TV and Yahoo.com tells them, but mostly because they want to believe this. They want to just take the new weekly download, and they're just incapable of asking questions about it or rejecting it. They're just not constructed in such a way that it allows them to do that. Now, I'm going to dive into that topic in a later program because I have some thoughts on that and kind of the problems it presents to us, but also some opportunities that may come from that. So we'll cover the NPC in a show coming up. It kind of has a relation to Dune, the movie, or the book. I saw the movie this weekend. It's fantastic. You should go see it. The second part. See the first part. See the second part. If you haven't seen the first part, see it. Great movie. Fantastic. Not woke. Just good entertainment. The kind of stuff that people have been wanting, which is why it's doing super good in the box office. People are spending their very valuable dollars to them in the state of this economy to go out and actually watch a movie that distracts them from the bull stuff. Let's say it that way. Back to Mushhead. He's been rather angry sounding in his speech, and the communists in Congress have made an effort to stand up and applaud as many times as they can, with the most obvious fraud of them all, Kamala behind Joe, leading the crowd, and their affirmation of this speech. And her behavior is so fake. It's just blatant, and it reminds me of those old communist newsreels showing the party members just falling all over themselves to be the most enthusiastic in their support for Dear Reader. Again, shameful and disrespectful. These people hate you, and they want us all to die. They hate us so much, and they disrespect us so much that they're pretending that this man has a clear and coherent thought in his head, that he is cognizant enough to actually be in any kind of position of power. It's terrible. It's evil. This man should be in a retirement home at best, And if there was any real truth and justice in the American way, he'd be rotting in a jail cell. The world is laughing at us, and they see blood in the water. The animals are smelling death on our diseased and riddled body, and they're coming here in wave after wave to finish us off and feast upon our carcass. Now, something this disgusting piece of filth just had the nerve to do is to bring up the name of Laken Riley. He invoked her name and tried to use it to claim that somehow the wide open border that allowed those waves of invaders to flow into the country, somehow that was the fault of the political right. Congress, the right-wing Congress, the Republican-controlled Congress, is the reason that Joe Biden can't do his job and secure the border. You scumbag. You have no right to use her name for your political clown show. Now, Laken Riley is the young woman who was brutally murdered by an illegal alien in Georgia just a few weeks ago, an illegal that had been arrested and released numerous times, an illegal that should not have been in my state. This happened in my state. He stalked, attacked, and murdered this beautiful young woman who had her entire life ahead of her. This girl could have been anyone that you know. I have nieces. One of them went to UGA. She just graduated very recently. This could have been her. Somebody who had their entire life ahead of her. She's gone, and so many more just like her are gone because we have allowed a seemingly endless flow of people to come here with no checks and balances. And many of those people are violent, psychotic, and malicious people who are here to inflict harm and malice on everyone in their path. One of the single biggest surges of illegals in U.S. history has happened during this administration. Now, you can't say with 100% accuracy, of course, that nothing would have happened to Laken Riley in her life, but what you can say for sure is that if Joe Biden has done his job, what he swore an oath to do, then that degenerate animal that killed her would not have been in this country, and he would not have been here to act in such a horrible way, and she would not have been his victim. This president has blood on his hands, the blood of countless Americans who have had to endure the damage wrought by feral criminals that he has unleashed upon the nation. The flow of fentanyl into this country. I had a very close relative just a couple of years ago, another young, beautiful young woman that had her entire life ahead of her, who died from an accidental fentanyl overdose. These things kind of hit home for me. This refusal to do his duty may in fact be the thing that burns through the programming and convinces at least enough of the half-dead that he cannot be leader anymore. And that leads me kind of more to the main point of the show, that being the future play, the plan, or at least the agreement that the factions in power behind the scenes have come to see. I believe that the writing is on the wall, and that the faction that backs Biden they've accepted that they're not going to be able to keep him in play for another term, that they're going to lose the public power here. They know that he's done. They know that the underpinnings of society is collapsing, and that they are going to go through, or we are going to go through, a contraction across the board, all things. And I believe that they have conceded that they have to give power to another faction, the faction that Trump represents. But they have a plan. They are going to accept Trump as president, at least in name, but they're going to try and combat him along every front and from inside the government itself, just like they did last time. Now, there are many factions, and they come to agree upon the rules of engagement among themselves. They have similar ideas on what is permissible when they confront, the real players and the movers and shakers of the factions. There are things that are off limits that they will not do to one another. But Trump is from a faction that is kind of expanding its power. It's a newer faction, and in my opinion, his faction represents a new movement. It's a breakaway movement that has not really been in true control of anything, and it's not really seen as a major player yet. I think this is a public view of a much deeper struggle between these factions. And I think Trump's faction is, like I said, smaller, and so it's seen as being vulnerable, and they're trying to crush it to prevent it fully emerging and becoming kind of self-supporting and the new thing and sufficient on its own. Now, I'll get into that idea a little deeper next week. I have a show that is ready to record. I think I've mentioned this on last week's episode because I was working on it, and now it's done, and I will put that together. I'll record that for next week's episode. But getting back to this struggle, I think the play here is that the Biden faction will allow this Trump group to ascend to position, but they're going to heap as many obstacles and challenges as they can publicly against it. And more importantly, what we have seen is that those rules of engagement that I spoke of, they're not in play here. The Biden faction has discarded those rules, and they've gone full unrestricted warfare against Trump and the group that backs him. I would not be shocked to see actions that have all the trappings of covert hits on Trump actors. We've already seen some of those kind of things take place, and of course all the lawfare and everything that's going on against Trump directly. But there's a lot of indirect things that are happening that people probably aren't putting all together. I know for sure that what we are going to see is that army of illegals that has been flooding across the border. They're going to come into play. It's my opinion, as well as others, many others, Matt Bracken being one of those, that those military-age males that have been a massive part of that wave, they will become a big part and a big factor in the actions that take place in the coming future. We could see things begin to happen as soon as this summer, I think. This illegal army will likely play a part in the street violence that is going to be taking place. We could see many of them becoming members of the military and replacing the loyal Americans, which could lead to all kinds of things. Trump will be in office, and his daily briefings will be line after line of open conflict in city after city across America. I think we will see the events of 2020 pale in comparison to what is coming. And I suspect that we could see those cities burning as soon as this Christmas. Think of it this way. The faction in power right now is in a symbiotic relationship with the bankers. And that banker faction is going to blow up the economic foundations of the West. And they're going to do it when the other guy is in control so that they can place the blame on him. You can't have your guy in the White House and kind of sitting there pulling the levers of power and then send out a street army to riot and loot cities in protest of what that guy in the White House is doing. Can't be your guy doing all that. So they're going to live with Trump in office. I think we're seeing some signs of that with these legal defeats as these lawfare actions start to crumble. But they're going to burn that office down around him. It's terrifying what is coming, and we likely all don't really have a good idea, a complete idea of what is all going to take place. That picture will emerge as it develops, as the situation evolves. We'll keep you posted on this show as much as I can, as much as I can see into the future, which is no more than anybody else really. But we'll put it together from all the various things that we collect, all the various sources that we pull together here. All I can tell you really, though, is to be prepared. Get your things in order. You know what needs to be done. We've talked about it on this show before. I've mentioned it many times. Set timelines and make a plan. Work to your plan and make it happen, because time is ticking. I I think you need to have your things in order by the election just to be on the safe side. I've said this before, said this on episodes here fairly recently. That's the timetable that I'm working to. There are things that I have that I want to get done and get into play. That's why one of the other reasons I've been really busy. But you got to get these things done because time's running out. Anyway, that is all I have time for this week. Speaking of it, like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab, Nice Crew Digital, and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.